Some suburbs are trying to look more like cities, building up new areas to appear more urban in an attempt to lure younger college-educated workers and the employers who want to hire them. WSJ's Eliot Brown joins us now to discuss. Hi, Eliot. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So how big of a trend is this? How many suburban areas did you identify who are developing urban-like areas?
So on a large scale, it's relatively limited so far, or nascent maybe. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of, on a small scale, a lot of former malls, dead malls, are trying to just develop apartments with retail below, and they call it urban.
Right.
That's where it's starting to spread. And then on a large scale, you have places like Tysons Corner in Virginia, New Rochelle in New York, that are really going big and trying to make a giant sort of downtown in what was more of a sprawling mix.
And that would include what? Condos, office buildings,
right.
Restaurants?
So all of the above. The idea is density,
right.
So, and a mix of uses. So the suburbs for the second half of the 20th century really sprawled out with office parks and then malls separate from that, and low-scale low-density housing spread out around the suburbs.
Right.
Now the idea is have it all in one place.
This is a sort of reverse engineering in how cities were traditionally built. Is there any evidence that this sort of build it and they will come method works?
So to be determined.
Yeah.
Big-scale planning efforts often struggle. It's happened organically in some places more over time in slightly different ways, like Bellevue, Washington sort of popped up out of there. I think what's going to happen and be the real test is to see how many people actually populate these high-rise apartments that are being built in these places.
And of course, the trend that's driving all of this is the younger college-educated worker seems to want to live in a more urban environment. Is that right?
Right. The cities were losing population for much of the second half of the 20th century, and now they're starting to grow again, and particularly among sort of the set that employers really are after, college-educated, higher earning. And so that's what these suburbs are trying to sort of vie for and compete. They were the winners forever, and now they're seeing the cities sort of steal some of their thunder.
Right. I guess this is an attempt to create more of a street life, right? That's what...
Right, and that's what's sort of been hard to do in the past few decades organically. It's not an easy thing to create. We like these bucolic New England-like towns, but often what happens is you just build these, big boxy buildings, and then it's a little sterile feeling.
So are there any sort of suburban areas, like I'm thinking of New York, for instance, that already have little town centers around train stations, for instance? Are they at an advantage? Yeah,
so those are some that are already sort of ahead on this trend. Mm-hmm. Basically what's happened in the outer suburbs of DC and New York is you have a lot that are on transit, commuter lines, Metro North, and so a little town with a grid developed there, whereas contrast that with places in Texas or in other parts of DC like Tysons Corner, and it's a mess of highways and windy streets, and that makes it a lot harder to build up. Right,
and so Tysons Corner, though, is really pressuring developers to go higher and higher?
Yeah, it's actually, there's a huge amount of cranes going on there. It sort of feels a little like Dubai, and there you have, the challenge there will be you have a huge amount of these like giant office parks. Gannett has its headquarters out there, actually.
Speaking of.
And they're trying to add grids for streets in each of them and have each sort of parcel owner gradually convert to urban.
Right. Very interesting. Eliot Brown, thank you so much for coming to talk to us about that.
Thanks for having me.